Hello viewers, welcome to our channel. Today Dr. Harita is with us, Chief Dietitian at Apollo Hospitals, Jubilee Hills. Hello doctor.
Hello.
Okay. Doctor, why is brown rice is better than white rice, particularly diabetic patients?
So basically, the first difference between white rice and brown rice is white rice is completely polished, and brown rice is unpolished. So it not only has higher amount of fiber, it will also have the wheat germ intact. And wheat germ is a powerhouse of nutrients, especially the B vitamins. So when we are looking for water soluble or the B complex vitamins like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, all these are present in the wheat germ. So any grain, when it is unpolished, it will have higher content of B complex vitamins. And why are they important? Because they help us digest that wheat that we are eating, or help us assimilate the energy that we are getting from the wheat that we eat or the rice that we eat. And therefore unpolished rice or brown rice is good, and it makes you, not only that, it makes you eat lesser quantity. When you see, if you and I experiment with it also, white rice we will eat more quantity, so we will get more carbohydrates. At the same meal with the same vegetables, if you give brown rice, we will eat lesser quantity also. So you will eat lesser quantity, so lesser carbs. At the same time, you get an additional benefit of getting fiber and all the B complex nutrients that are required to assimilate these carbohydrates in our meal.
Doctor, is honey good for diabetic patients?
Yeah, I think this is a very common myth which is there, that if I can't consume sugar, I consume jaggery or consume honey. But ideally, even honey has a form of sugar which is fructose. And if you look at the end product as calories, it provides the same amount of calories. So you cannot replace 100% of your sugar needs with your honey needs just because of thinking that honey is good for diabetes.
Doctor, can you explain how diabetes can be prevented?
So you're basically asking how can we prevent diabetes. So yes, that is the most relevant thing to understand, because today with the genetic makeup that we have and the lifestyle that we have, all of us are very sedentary, and this kind of a lifestyle where we are not doing activity, eating the wrong food, not sleeping at the right time, and not sleeping enough in the first place, all of us are contributing to the non-communicable disorders, of which diabetes is at the topmost. So even before we get diabetes, we should definitely try and avoid it, prevent it as much as possible, especially if we have a family history of it. That means a parent has it, grandparent has it, aunt has it, uncle has it. That is a red flag for us to know that, okay, I might get it, and therefore I should do everything possible to prevent it in future. So if you're already 25, 30-year-old, you know that there is a possibility of getting it, and now people are getting it younger and younger by the day. We've seen 29-year-old, 26-year-old. Those who have a family history are more susceptible to it. So in prevention, there is no medicine, and therefore prevention is all about correcting your lifestyle, correcting your eating patterns, bringing certain level of discipline in your meal timings, and also about what you eat at meal timings. Eating junk is common. Wanting to party is very common. Everybody wants to have sweets. It's not about completely avoiding them, but it is, keeping them very occasional. Occasionally, when you're having a festival at home or you're having a party once in a while, all this happens once a month, it seems fair enough. But if this is happening too frequently, once in a week there is a party at home, you're going out and eating, there's a party happening at office, all this becomes too often. And that's the scenario today. Almost 2 to 3 times a week people are going out and eating, or bringing food from outside and eating, and all of this is contributing to poor balanced meals that they consume compared to the traditional pattern. Unless there is a festival or something, Most of it is simple balanced meal which you're eating, home cooked meal which you're eating. So if you're looking at prevention, and if your lifestyle is reflecting something like this, that you're constantly eating outside and you're on the other side thinking about prevention, the first step is to switch to home food, switch to appropriate and fixed meal timings, and bring about some kind of a physical activity in your daily life. In 24 hours, you evaluate whether at least for an hour or two, are you physically active? If not, you incorporate any kind of a physical activity which you enjoy. It could be a game, it could be swimming, it could be going to the gym, it could be a aerobic class, a Zumba class, anything that you enjoy, or a simple walk in the park and covering about 4 to 5 kilometers. But this much of physical activity is mandatory, because the rest of the time, rest of the 23 hours, we are all very, very sedentary. We are sitting in our car, we are sitting in the office, we are at home, we are sitting, not much of physically strenuous activity that we do. And the last but not the least is sleep hours. If you're able to sleep at least 7 to 8 hours a day and give your body that rest, it is not going into that kind of a stressful situation which would precipitate conditions which I have a family history of. So I'm genetically prone to it. If I add sleeplessness, if I add poor lifestyle, if I add sedentary lifestyle, if I add poor eating habits, it precipitates at a very young age. And this is a well-known fact. And therefore, we can use lifestyle as a pill, as a medicine, as a corrective measure, and as a preventive measure to prevent all these non-communicable disorders.
Doctor, is there any particular diet for type 1 diabetes?
Yeah, so type 1 diabetes is very different from type 2 diabetes. Most of the time we put it in the same common bracket. One of the most important things for type 1 is meal timings and how often they eat. If they are taking the insulin and not eating frequently, or there is too much of gap between one meal to another, say they've had a breakfast very early at 8 o'clock and are unable to eat a lunch till 2 o'clock, there's too much of gap. And this happens very frequently in people who are working. There is a very high chance that they go into hypoglycemia if they have long hours of uneating. Or, if they've had their lunch at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and they're having their dinner at 10, and they've not had anything in between, very commonly we see that people have hypoglycemic events at 4 or 5 in the evening. And they're massively hungry at 7. And when they're very hungry at 7, you know how hunger works, right? Once you're very hungry, you don't want to think about diet, you don't want to think what is right, what is wrong. You just want to eat something to fill your stomach. Therefore, eating small frequent meals with a gap of about 3 hours is very important for them, first. Second thing which is very important for them is the carbohydrate content at each meal, because X amount of insulin is required for X amount of carbohydrates to be used by the body. Otherwise, it will go a waste or it will become an excess. And therefore, they should have a fair idea about what is the carbohydrate content of all the different foods, and how much they are consuming for breakfast, how much they are consuming for lunch, how much they are consuming for dinner, vis-a-vis the insulin that they are taking, and whether that's sufficient to utilize and assimilate that kind of carbohydrates. So this is more calculative. They have to be specific. They have to know what are the kind of foods which are rich in carbohydrates, which are low in carbohydrates, and include that in the meal, and have a fair idea what is the total quantity of or grams of carbohydrate that they are consuming per day.
Doctor, what should be the diet for a patient with type 2 diabetes?
So, as we were discussing the various aspects of type 2, essentially the principle that we follow is you need to make sure that you're not taking too much of simple carbs. That is the first rule. So, simple carbs, where do you get? If you're eating your sweets, if you're eating your sugar in your tea, coffee, or milk, if you're taking soft drinks, if you're taking fruit juices, if you're eating ice creams, all these are rich sources of simple sugars, which immediately increases the blood sugar value. So what happens is you eat this, you see your blood sugars jumping up to 200, 300, etc. At the same time, you need carbohydrates for various activity to walk around, to do your daily activity. You need some carbs. All that you should get from complex carbs. So complex carbohydrates you get when you're eating your grains, you're eating your whole wheat, you're eating your fruit, you're eating your vegetables. All this gives you the whole complex carbs, and therefore that needs to be part of your meal rather than depending on simple sugars for your daily carbohydrate intake. Again, the principles remain the same, that you need to eat more frequently so that you're not massively hungry at the next meal. This is very common in all of us, also especially those who are working. You will eat your lunch at 1, and by 7:30 you're so hungry that you will eat anything that comes your way. You are not thinking whether that is good carb, bad carb, simple. You're ready to eat. And therefore small frequent meals, even if the in between snack is just a fruit, a buttermilk, a handful of nuts, some corn or sprouts that you would carry, all this is fine. It quells the hunger, allows you to wait for a specific dinner time, and then you can plan your meal and eat your meal at a particular time.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks for the information. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Thank you.